Very good morning to all of you. Welcome to this webinar on rationalization of TDS and TCS provisions organized by ASSOCHAM. I would like to introduce you all with our eminent experts today with us. First of all, we have with us as a session moderator, Shri Rahul Garg, Chairman of National Council on Direct Taxes, ASSOCHAM. We're also joined by Mr. Vikas Vassal, Co-Chairman, National Council on Direct Taxes, ASSOCHAM, and Global Leader of Tax, Grant Thornton International Limited. We are also joined by our eminent panelist, Mr. Keshav Loyalka, Group Head Finance, Accounts and Taxation, L&T and Financial Services, and Mr. Vineet Agrawal, Co-Chair of National Council on Direct Taxes, ASSOCHAM, and Senior EVP and Group Head Taxation, GSW Group. So I would like to request Shri Rahul Garg to kindly deliver the opening remarks for this session.
Good morning, friends. I can just say that as the word suggests, TDS, we all have seen in our lives, it is indeed very tedious. And despite all the efforts that industry groups have been making, the consultants have been making, your all representations, year by year, we are seeing that it is becoming more and more onerous. The saving grace is that the technology is being employed by the revenue in reasonably intense manner, and therefore lots of transactions, lots of compliances are to that extent can be said to be eased out. But whether a burden of TDS that the Indian taxpayers discharge of the kind and order which is unprecedented in world is a very different tax regime. So we do say when we introduce the tax regime to the people from other countries that India has two tax regimes, one the taxation for your company and the other is taxation that you need to discharge as a functionary to collect the taxes, to deduct the taxes and pay it to the government, and both are equally onerous, both are equally important in terms of Indian tax systems. So considering that the government also keeps very open eyes and ears to see what is that can be done to improve the TDS system, and therefore periodically the opportunity is thrown at us to see that what else, what's new, what can improve, which will help businesses, which will also secure the interest of the revenue. With this thing in mind, ASSOCHAM committee decided that we should do a thought leadership in terms of the TDS and TCS provisions. And I'm happy to share with you all that Vikas and his team agreed to put significant effort to bring this publication out. And this publication captures the situation of the TDS and TCS as it exists today, the aspects which are nuanced and practical, the aspects which are forward looking and may need attention both from the regulators as well as from the taxpayers. So with these opening remarks, I would request Vikas to walk us through the thought leadership publication of ASSOCHAM, and then we would pause for a little while to get into the panel discussion. I would invite our two industry veterans, Vineet and also Keshav, to give their point of view on the TDS in their experience, and then invite also the questions from the audience. And the audience, I would request, can keep writing their questions to the chat box, whichever Secretary Avinash Sharma would bring it to the attention of the panel members appropriately. So over to you, Vikas. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Rahul.
you.
I think Avinash, you will have to release the report first.
Yes, sir. Yes, and we're just releasing the report.
And provide me the share rights.
Were you able to see this release report?
No, I think you can provide me the share rights so we can start.
I'll just.
Thanks,
Thank
Rahul and Avinash. I think, Avinash, finally the report got released thanks to the technology which supported us. And with this, we'll start the discussion. I think if we have to look at this topic before we get into the technical details, uh, in the spirit of the holiday season and on a lighter note, if we have to uh, teach our kids to be responsible citizens and understand the nuances of tax, I think the best way to do is you eat away 30% of their ice cream every time you buy them. Uh, they will automatically learn the intricacies of a subject called TDS and taxes. So you may start following up effective this holiday season itself in order to teach them about the taxes and becoming responsible citizens, as I said. Uh, Now, what is the moot point of discussion today if we look at it? When we are talking about the need for rationalization or simplification of TDS or TCS provisions. The moot point of discussion and debate is what should be the focus of the government as well as the industry and the various stakeholders, chambers, professionals, and others in order to make sure that we move on the path ahead to make India a $10 trillion economy. Now, in order to do that, I think the clear focus for all the stakeholders, especially the government as well as the industry, should be in ease of doing business, growing business, wealth creation, generate more and more employment, and providing opportunities for entrepreneurs and an environment where they are able to start and grow their businesses. If we all agree the answer to this is an overwhelming yes, then I think we need to relook at various measures, especially in terms of compliances, to save on time and effort and to cut down on the disputes and litigation which goes on in the country on all kinds of compliances, including TDS, which is a topic of discussion for today. Now, if we look at the origination of TDS provisions right from the 1922 Income Tax Act and to the 1961 Act thereon, it all started with two premises. First, to collect taxes at the very point where the transactions are originating in order to have an audit trail or the transaction trail so that there is no leakage of tax and the information is available with the tax authorities. And second was primarily that tax should get collected uh, at regular intervals as and when the transactions happen so that the government gets regular funds. Now, when it started with very few provisions in terms of the nature of transactions which were covered within the ambit of TDS or TCS. For example, salary payments, for example, dividends and others. However, over the last few decades, both in terms of the compliances as well as the finer points in terms of nuances, rules, forms, sections, the scope has widened a lot. It has widened to an extent that it has become actually a burden for the industry, involving a lot of administrative time, effort, and cost, and often resulting into unnecessary disputes and litigation. If we look at the overall TDS regime today, including TCS, we have over 3 dozen substantive sections which you have to look into. There are several rules and forms. There are different rates of taxes as well. And when we say different rates of taxes, they range from 0.1% to 40%. And not only that, in a same situation, in a similar transaction, there could be varied rates which you may have to apply. If it's a plain vanilla simple transaction, if the party doesn't have the PAN number, or if the other party has not filed the income tax return itself, there could be different rates applicable over there. Add to the complexity, there are different interpretations and thresholds in terms of the various provisions. So this is the overall background in which we are currently operating under the TDS regime, which started with twin objectives, expanded the scope year on year, and had become little complex and cumbersome at present right now. That's the reason we need to have a relook at the same. Now, as I mentioned that there are different set of compliances and challenges. Here I would like to remind all of us that as a deductor, we are acting in a fiduciary capacity on behalf of the government stroke the revenue authorities, doing part of their function, supporting them in the compliances and the revenue collection exercise. Therefore, it involves a wide variety of steps, which includes determining under which provisions of the Act a particular transaction is to be subject to TDS, which often results into debate. Then you have to withhold tax at an appropriate rate, deposit it with the government within the timelines, file the necessary periodic TDS returns, and also issue certain certificates from the system. Now, some of these functions have become actually redundant and do not require and do not achieve any meaningful objective. Now, mind it, if there is any non-compliance, even in your fiduciary capacity or as an agent of the government where you're supporting in revenue collection, still the penal provisions are very harsh. For example, if you have not deducted, there are penal provisions in terms of interest and disallowance of the part of the expenditure. And in certain cases, if you're deducted and not deposited, generally in case of major willful defaults or otherwise, it could also lead to prosecution provisions, trigger of prosecution provisions. Add to it the interpretational challenges which we have been facing on different provisions. It all results into unnecessary disputes at various stages. Therefore, what does it mean? It actually means effectively that a considerable amount of time and efforts gets invested on behalf of the businesses in a simple task, which is to deduct tax and deposit. But in the overall process, a lot of time and efforts gets invested, which is not very productive. Similarly, if we look at the government's perspective also, it is counterproductive in terms of their overall objective, where even the revenues time gets invested in terms of investigations, finding out various details, etc. So the point is, are we at a juncture where it requires a relook? To my mind, the answer is overwhelming yes, and I will share some details why we are saying that. Now, this is a very important slide from the Revenue Authority's perspective about the importance of the direct tax collections. Why is it important? If you look at the chart on my left hand side, which is in the red bar diagram, TDS as a percentage of the gross gross direct tax receipts, consistently about 30% to 40% of the gross receipts government garners through the TDS mechanism, which means almost 1/3 plus of the overall revenue that the government collects is through TDS and TCS mechanism. Therefore, the headline statement over here is TDS and TCS regime is going to stay, it is not going away, because it is a very important and potent tool available for the government where millions of taxpayers actually work for the government to collect these taxes. It is going to stay. Interestingly, if you look at the last few years, especially last 2-3 years, this 30 to 40% average collection rate is again going up. It means the compliances are again increasing and there is better collection which is happening. Again, it substantiates why the government would like to continue on that. Now we'll come back to this point again in the next slide. Now I would draw your kind attention to the right hand side of the slide, which is in terms of refunds. On an average, roughly 15% plus money which the government collects gets refunded as well, which means there is excess collection happening, which ultimately results into refunds, either automatic refunds when you file the tax returns or by way of litigation decisions which get decided in favor of the taxpayers and so on and so forth. Now, interesting point over here is generally a large part of these refunds will be linked to the TDS and TCS collected during the course of the year, because we all know as we pay our taxes over a period of time during the course of the year as advance tax. In the final tax computation, when we deposit the final taxes, all the TDS provisions are taken into account in terms of whatever taxes we have paid, and only then the balance is paid. Therefore, a large portion of these refunds, maybe 30 to 40% of overall refunds, could be linked to the TDS. There is no direct data available, but based on the hypothesis that we just discussed, our estimate is roughly around 30 to 40% of the overall refunds could be by way of the TDS. Therefore, it requires a relook right at the point of collection itself. Now, in the last slide, we discussed how and why TDS is important. But if we look at the finer details, and as we generally hear and say that devil is in the details, some very interesting facets have come up, which are that if we break down the overall TDS basket in terms of the collections, merely 4 provisions, which are salaries, which are professional and technical services, interest, and contractor payments. These 4 provisions contribute almost 80% plus to the government's kitty on the TDS. And the balance, all the provisions that we discussed about, contribute less than 15 to 20%. And there, when we did our study, it was very interesting to find that there are certain provisions where the overall collections is even less than 1%. Now the moot point over here is threefold. First, if we retain few sections which are contributing to the larger revenue contribution, again applying the Pareto principle of 80-20, maybe 4 sections which are contributing, make them more robust. Balance, look at the sections which are not contributing much, but only adding to the complications, delete those sections, okay, or repeal those sections, we may not need that. And certain other sections, okay, which are required for varied purposes. For example, if there is no information available from other sources, we can combine those and rationalize the TDS rates as well. Maybe 0.
Vikas sir, we can't hear you. So I think there's some technical issues at your end. Network
I
issues.
can't hear as well. Am I audible?
You are audible, but Vikas sir is not audible. Vikas sir, you're not audible, I think. Okay. So he's joining. There was some technical issue. He's just.
While we await Vikas, I think the virtual has its own benefit and it has its own challenges.
So, Avinash, if we are unable to get Vikas, then we can flip through the slides. You can take the control.
Okay, sir.
Just give 30 more seconds. Maybe Vikas would join back.
Yes, sir. Rahul sir, he's saying he's joining in a minute. Meanwhile, you can just take the control till the time he joins. He'll take just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you can take
So
some questions which are there.
in the meantime, may I invite Keshav to give the industry view of dealing with TDS, because there are so many sections and there are so many rules and there are so many people involved in the whole machinery of the TDS. What is your take, Keshav, as an industry person in
Yeah, Rahul, I'm back.
complying with TDS?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Fortunately,
Avinash,
Vikas is back and he was taking us through very structured way about the TDS.
just give me the sharing rights, Avinash. I'll put the
Avinash, back
presentation again.
to Vikas.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul.
Keshav, we will come back to you. Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Avinash, my presentation is not going up. I do not know why. I'm trying to share it.
It's not appearing. Sir, I'll run it. I'll run it from my side, sir. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Put the presentation at your end.
Okay.
Because it's not going up at my end now. So apologies for the internet connection drop. What we were discussing was that there are about 4 sections which are contributing a large portion of the revenue. We can consolidate our focus on these few sections, rationalize them a bit. Second step could be repeal certain sections which are not required, which are contributing even one, which means about 24 sections we can review. And certain other sections we can consolidate and put a very nominal rate of 0.1% or 1% on the TDS mechanism, for the simple reason that the idea is to track the things right at the origination stage. Now, similar picture is available if you look at the TCS. Again, if we look at the TCS on alcoholic liquor sales, scrap, and contractors or licensee payments in the mining and related industries, again, similar picture appears. About 80% plus of the TCS gets contributed through these 3 or 4 provisions only. Balance, it is anywhere between less than 1% to 4% to 5%. Now, we are all into the businesses or the professions. We also follow similar ABC principles in our day-to-day functioning and the overall strategy to focus where the larger revenue collections could be there with least amount of efforts and do away with those provisions where the revenue generation is not that much. Avinash, next slide, please. Now, building upon this theme further, if we look at it, when we started the discussion, that one of the key objectives of these provisions on the TDS and TCS was to collate information primarily in order to make sure that there are no revenue leakages or non-compliances. And if there are, then the government can easily track it down. Now, over the last few decades, thanks to the digitization process, which Rahul also alluded at the beginning of the automatic information exchange which is happening vis-a-vis the various government authorities. To refresh our memories, there has been linking of PAN and Aadhaar. Many transactions where you do not have your PAN or you do not provide your PAN, you have to provide your Aadhaar today. There is information exchange which is happening between income tax or the CBDT and various other government departments. As can be seen on the screen, there have been a memorandum of understanding signed and information exchange happening between GST, Corporate Affairs Department, and various others. We all will recall there was annual information report which transitioned into Statement of Financial Transactions, now SFT, and its scope has already been widened. Now there's a lot of information available from banking and financial institutions, uh, stock exchanges, and other even the brokerages, as well as shortly from the registrars of property and other registrars as well, which is automatically flowing into the database for the government. Now the question is, with all this kind of digitization and with GST spreading its wings all across the country, do we still want to have this kind of a TDS regime in place? Or let's acknowledge and accept that the today's TDS regime has lost its significance as the key tool for information availability for the government. From that angle also, I think there is a need to have a relook to rationalize the TDS regime. At no point in time, we as industry or businesses are saying that there should be less collections. No. Government needs funds for the larger socio-economic and welfare development program, and we all are in complete support of that. In order for India to become a $10 trillion economy, government needs funds for the larger infrastructure, larger welfare measures, and we all are very supportive of that. What is the ask of the SHM is very simple. Please rationalize the whole structure, have minimal sections in place, and have very few tax rates available for that. Avinash, let's move to the last slide. Yeah. So what are we recommending here? There is already a GST ecosystem in place. Please dwell further on that. There's a lot of information happening over there. That information can also help you in eliminating or rationalizing many of the TDS provisions today. That is one. MSMEs, especially small industries, should there be larger thresholds? Even in the present TDS statutes, the threshold that were fixed or which are there, they were scheduled decades back. Now, economy has progressed, the financial transactions have progressed, there is a lot of inflation. I think there should be some threshold limits to help the small and the medium sector industries, including the startups. Okay, so that they have a concessional TDS regime, or they are out of the TDS regime at least for few years of their initial business. Now there could be a question that if there is more rationalization done, how can the government collect revenues at regular and periodic intervals? Now that can be supported by rationalizing the advanced tax collections. Today we have 3 or 4 installment in which the taxes are paid. Even that could be rationalized in terms of 4 or 5 transactions in which the advanced tax collections could be taken by the government. But at the same time, it requires complete rationalization on TDS side. So there is an offset of revenue collections and there's no loss to the government at regular intervals. We have covered the point on rationalization in terms of few provisions, balance provisions to be repealed and others to be consolidated at a very nominal rate. Okay. One more revenue neutral measure that we are recommending is in context of the disputes which continue to go on year, especially in terms of the year-end provisions or others, wherein you have to match the income vis-a-vis the TDS. Okay. Now, this is unnecessary to my mind. Why don't we have a passbook or a ledger kind of a system that here is my TDS as my company X amount. Let me utilize the X amount of part of that this year, whatever I can, and the balance I can use it next year without any linkages of matching it completely. Now, this matching exercise results into futile time and effort without yielding much result and is a cause of one of the biggest disputes and litigation which goes on the TDS front. Now have a simple passbook kind of thing. In GST, we are doing a similar thing. I think we can replicate that on the TDS front as well. Another interesting point is in terms of the downloading and providing the TDS certificates. Now all the information is available in the form 26AS, and in go forward AIS will be a self-containing tool in which all the information is available. Why is there a requirement cast on me to get the certificates and then share it with the people from whom I've deducted taxes? Now this can be done away with. All information is available in the form 26AS, and I think that can be utilized. Last but not the least, in terms of the recent provision which have been introduced, where TDS and TCS provisions are overlapping. Even though, to give credit to the government, it has been clarified if TDS provisions apply, okay, especially 194Q, then the TCS should not apply. But there has to be now a compulsory interaction between the buyer and seller to decide how we are doing the transaction. This all adds to the complications. And one of the earlier example I used in the presentation was, in a same transaction, you will have to look into three aspects. One, what is the normal rate of tax as per your interpretation and as per the rates prescribed? Second, whether the PAN is available or not. And third, whether the other party has filed the tax return or not. So I think a large part of the tax function is being put on the taxpayers per se.
It seems we have lost Vikas again.
So just give him a minute. He may revert back to his internet again.
Seeing the PPT is over, now we can start the Q&A, sir, or from the panelists, sir.
Yeah.
Rahul, yeah.
Keshav, I was wanting to complete what we left in between. Your
Yes,
experience of dealing with TDS, and particularly a company like yours in the finance field, and also dealing with multiple number of stakeholders, what's your take, and particularly in the aspect of how do you relate it to your own burden and the burden on the people who are your stakeholder as an ecosystem?
Thanks, Rahul. And first of all, I would like to compliment Vikas for such a comprehensive thought paper where he has articulated the entire challenge industry and tax professionals are facing in terms of compliance of TDS provision. It is just to add on what he started with. If you have to teach your kids a 30% haircut on ice cream, I would just add that if you add GST, it would be slightly bigger, and the new generation should be aware about that cost being there. I would like to bucket the TDS issues in two parts. One is the compliance part, and second is the impact on commercial part. Uh, as far as the impact is concerned, say if the TDS is deducted on a gross basis, whereas the tax liability is on net basis, then it creates a significant mismatch in terms of TDS being deducted as you earn, and which leads to significant refunds. So if I give a context to my own sector, where financial sector, my TDS will get deducted at a gross income, which is the interest income I receive from my borrowers. And what I earn is the net interest income, which is significantly lower as compared to gross income. And that leads to a significant mismatch, and it creates an uh, gap in terms of my business working capital as well. Somebody may say that there is a possibility that you can apply for a lower withholding tax certificate. That's there, but again, that's again so cumbersome that when you apply, you specify the person's PAN, etc. Why can't we have a simple uh, overarching lower withholding certificate? Because at the beginning of the year, I cannot anticipate every of the PAN from where I am expected to receive interest. So this is again creating a significant commercial challenge for me. Again, in that, I have a slighter nuance that I am from an NBFC sector in the bigger BFSI. And NBFC is particularly not treated at par with the banks, where a bank is not required to deduct TDS. Uh, we are required. So that again create a not a level playing field for us. And this has been a continuous and regular ask we have been making to CBDT through this forum and other forum. And the need of our is this need to be seen in right perspective. Second issue which I wanted to draw is about the compliance burden. These compliance burden are getting humongous day by day as we speak. So just to give an example, if I take my own experience, that if I appoint a collection agent, I'm supposed to pay a fees to them. I'm not asking a fees for doing the collection part of taxation for the government, but I don't want a stick. There is no carrot, but at least don't punish me, because I am doing in good faith and in the best of the interpretation. So that is where the real challenge occurs. There are multiple level of penalties, disallowance of expense, and mismatch. It is ultimately a cash flow. What we are trying to achieve through this is that government keep on getting the income throughout the year, and if it goes beyond that, then we are penalized for multiple reasons. Interest, definitely I am paid, penalty is there, expense and on, and overall there is a stringent prosecution provisions. So these are the two things which I would like to bring to the table.
So one thing that I hear you say, Keshav, clearly is the issue of the TDS being a burden for you to perform a job where there is no carrot but only stick, and bigger stick every time you default. And second is the issue of the cash flow, that you don't have enough income tax to pay, but there is a TDS which is so high that it blocks the money, and there is a refund, and there is a process of refund, and it takes time, and it takes further time, etc. The third thing that you said, which I heard, was that it creates a lack of level playing field if the similar offering is in market from another set of players who are not subjected to this. So it means it's impacting both the cash flow, the business, as well as it's impacting the aspect that you cannot compete in the market with your competitors and therefore not be able to enjoy the level playing field. So I'm just wondering, Vikas, if you have some thoughts in mind that how can this mere stick approach be converted into, as Keshav was suggesting, is there a possibility that if the taxpayers perform this job of the TDS, how can we make it slightly carrot also for them and not only the sticks? Is there a thought around it?
Rahul,
So
just to add before Vikas chip in, see, entire game is a zero sum game. If there is a TDS, that leads to a refund. If there is a no TDS, there is a higher advance tax payment. And as you rightly mentioned about the ease of compliance and ease of doing business, thousands of people need to do a compliance. That will entirely be eliminated. Over to you, Vikas.
agree with you, Keshav. So Rahul, on a lighter note, if you are asking that government should compensate the TDS deductors, I think I would tend to agree with you. But I think it's a far thought. It will take some time to evolve that we are doing the function of the government as such. So should there be a compensation to that? I think that thought to emerge from the other side of the table is a little difficult at this stage. Having said that, if you look at the taxpayers charter also, clearly there is a mention of making the compliances easier now. Okay, so that's a right being provided to the taxpayers also, and I think this will evolve over a period of time. There could be certain things could be done in terms of the uh, taxpayers per se, including the TDS, and this has been a demand which the government has been considering. For example, if certain uh, government uh, projects are there, okay, can the taxpayers who are compliant be provided a better platform over there? Okay, uh, if there are minor defaults which are bound to happen in a large organization when you are doing so many compliances, can it be looked more favorably and more holistically? Okay, if you are depositing taxes of say 100 crores or 1000 crore rupees or even 50 crore rupees, and large part of your compliances are on time and there is a genuine intent, and if there are certain interpretational issues, can a more lenient approach be taken on a holistic view rather than putting a particular provision into place and saying that you are completely non-compliant on that. Rahul, we are aware there have been cases where
Thank you.
97% plus taxes have been paid, and for 3% there has been litigation going on for decades. So I think those could be addressed.
Vineetji, inviting you from your experience, and I just had a very random thought on this, that if the payment of the TDS is made on a quarterly basis rather than on a monthly basis, would it give at least the lead time to the people who deduct the tax to enjoy the money for 90 days, and therefore be some incentive, if not a carrot?
Thank you, Rahulji, and thank you, Mr. Vikasji, for this wonderful presentation. No, first of all, let us understand what was the basic and how this TDS provisions or any other provision has evolved. So today we find out there are certain provisions which are cumbersome. So let's look inward and find out and accept that there were crooks amongst us only who led to these kind of things, which ultimately have become a burden for compliant taxpayers. So let's say I'll take an example of, first of all, that issuance of certificate itself. Now, issuance of certificate probably has nothing to do with the governance. It is more to do with the person in whose case TDS has been deducted. So it's a proof with him by the deductor that I have deducted and I paid to the government. And tomorrow you should not come back and government should not deny you this credit. Now, we can say that, yes, now there's an online credit and everything should be seen. But we know the cases where taxes are sought to be deducted, but not paid to the government. So the government does not have that money. And the deductor has actually cut the money and deducted the money and utilizing it. So basically, it is a more of a trust building exercise between the deductor and deductee. So probably I will suggest that that kind of certification is required for that particular purpose. Now, how to move ahead with that? Because now in the GST, we have come out with that we still have those invoices. The invoice is a proof that somebody has charged GST on me and collected from me. There is no proof with the tax deducted in the case of income tax. So probably we have to live with those certificates for that reason. Now, should it be a quarterly payment? Then the basic concept of regular payment, regular income for the government, probably we are missing that concept. So it has to be monthly. But I would agree with Vikasji on that particular aspect, that government may think of it that 80-20 concept, that 5 or 6 sections of TDS or 4 or 3 or 4 sections of TCS, which are giving the maximum revenue, may be thrusted upon, may be carried with, and with clear-cut directions to the deductors that this is your zone. You need not to interpret anything. This is X, Y, Z, because you are my agent. You are not tax officers to interpret. Okay. And if I make a wrong interpretation, I should not be penalized for that. Either you give me black and white, this is what it is. If there is any scope for any interpretation, then basically I'm not an agent. Then you have given me authority to administer the tax law, which I don't have. So either give me that liberty, you don't punish your officers for doing mistakes. Doing bona fide mistakes. I'm not saying mistakes, doing bona fide mistakes. But I as a deductor, as in your extended arm, I do not have that kind of liberty. Here I'm only the right word to use is stick. I'm just facing the stick. And what kind of interpretations are there? Every time a new provision comes, one interpretation, one clarification, second clarification, third clarification. Now tell me, transaction in equities, private, let's say it's a private shares. How can it become a sale and purchase? And you want me to deduct tax on that also now? That this entire interplay of 206C and that 194H, that 194Q, it has become a joke. Now, latest interpretation which says that if under 206C1, you need not to 206(1)A, where you need not to collect TCS if somebody gives you a certificate that he is going to use it in manufacture. Now, again, that TDS liabilities comes in. I mean, the whole year, am I supposed to keep on doing this ping pong? Keep on checking? And it's okay for a small trader whose 5 or 6 transactions are there. For a large organization like mine, where transactions are all along the country or across the states, thousands of customers, thousands of vendors, how can I continue with this kind of operations, this kind of interpretations? One fine day you say, no, I'm giving this explanation, this clarification. Now you have to collect. Why? You give me, whenever you come with the section, you give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the situations. That's it.
I think
So
that's
I would
helpful.
suggest, yeah.
Just tell me one thing, Vikas, from hearing what Vineet is saying, what Keshav also said, it looks that your recommendation through SOCM to rationalize the TDS TCS provision by just retaining few of them and repealing all others which do not contribute as much, I think that seems to be most workable thing to happen, particularly in the backdrop that you mentioned of the digital trail of the transactions being already there. So with this, I would request Vinash, if you could pick up the questions from the audience and address it to Vikas and also to Keshav and Vinny.
Sure, sir. Yes.
So I think, Rahul, I saw a couple of questions if you want us to start.
Yeah, that would be good, Vikas.
So I think one question is in context of, I think the COVID related expenses, which was announced by the government. And the question is quite clear that there was a press release, but what has been done? So first, the question, two parts to that. One is in context of what is the relief? The relief is on two accounts. One is in context of the COVID related expenses per se. If the employer provides that support or any of the non-employer also provides that support, it is allowed. And second is in case of ex gratia payment to the deceased of the employee, that is primarily the family members, amount exempt if provided by employer, otherwise there's a limit of 10 lakhs. Now, it is right that it is only a press release as of now. No particular circular has been issued. I think we expect some amendments to come in this year's budget on that, since nothing has been coming out. Should you go ahead based on the press release? Probably the answer is yes, because the intent is very clear and the government has come out very clearly that this is the intent. So probably one should consider that and with a leap of faith on that.
May I add it here? Basically,
Yes, sir.
the past experience is very clear. Whenever government comes with a press release, in the next budget, they come out with all those amendments, and
Right.
you should treat it as a circular only, and you can go ahead with whatever your transactions are, because these amendments are bound to come. These are sovereign commitments.
And
Keshav,
just to
what
add, as far
is your
as on that
practical
issue, if I
advice?
may add, there is one old circular in the context of ex gratia, which said
Right.
it is not an income. So that for the time being can be relied upon while the government gives the consequential changes in the budget.
Keshav, I was also asking you that what is your practical advice to people to manage this whole tax system of complying with TDS? Is it your view that you must employ technology to do that? Is it your view that you must outsource it? Is it your view that you must have a battery of 10 people within your organization? Is it your view that your accounts people and finance people should be trained for this? How do you manage it in such large diverse organization?
Very relevant, Rahul. In fact, digitization and automation, there is no other way. When you are dealing with thousands of transactions and crores of rupees involved, and I would like to say here that we must compliment government the way they have done the digitization and the entire journey of digitization. At the month end, we are able to know by a press release that what is the collection for the country level of the GST and the audit trail which is created, which can definitely be getting used. So that way, I feel government is ahead of us, and we have to catch up the pace. If I share my own experience, we have also done a comprehensive automation, because one of the requirement is that when we go ahead, we have to reconcile my total expense with the TDS. Right now that has been deferred, but I am getting prepared. I am already prepared for that through an automated process where I am in a position to reconcile entire expenditure with whether the TDS was deductible and deducted, TDS not deductible. So this is a practical thing that we really need to move fast on automation.
Vineet, what is your experience on automation? Because I do hear from people that large companies work on ERP systems and they don't want to tinker too much in the ERP systems because then their upgrade becomes a problem. What is your advice or what is your experience that you want to share with the audience as to how should they go about automating this? Because other than that, doesn't seem to be a option here to manage it well.
Rahulji, for as far as our organization of our size is concerned, there is no option but to go for automation and use ERP like we use SAP based system. And your second question was whether you employ battery of people or you outsource it. So we have an in-house model where we have an outsource agency, which is in-house again, so which does all this back-end job for us. Okay, and we have a battery of people who keep on interpreting and keep on pushing them to make appropriate changes for with the ever-evolving rules and regulations. So yes, we have lakhs of transactions, so we have no option but to go for automation. But again, it depends upon the organizational size. And let me share my experience that in one of our other organization, we have started a tax helpline for MSMEs in Maharashtra. Okay, and I'm one of the panel members there. And my experience is all the questions as far as on the direct tax is concerned, all these MSMEs have only one question, which is related to TDS. Either it's 194Q or 206C or contract. I mean, their all entire life and entire troubles are revolving around TDS and TCS only.
Rahulji, if I may add, you raised a very valid point in terms of SAP. But here the challenge arises in terms of what changes need to be done. SAPs are a universal platform. And if I have to say, okay, if there is a PAN, there is a X rate. If there is a return filed Y rate. So there are, if I say 15 section, so it multiplies by say 200, more than 200 tax code, which is where even the SAP people or the IT people said, oh, I am getting crazy. That's where the challenge really arises. And that's where, as Vikas said, there is a need to rationalize and consolidate the tax rates.
And I also think that there is also a need for the technology companies to provide good technology which can work with the SAP systems or Oracle systems or dynamic systems, because currently I don't think there is a technology available where you can do the expense reconciliation, Keshav, as you mentioned. It's a very intense job to look at the expense reconciliation and then say that how much of that is liable to TDS, how much is actually deducted, whether deducted in time or not. So I think there is uh, some work need to be done by technology companies. Don't see this as a big market, but I do see that there is an opportunity given the current situation. But what Vikas is saying, that if you reduce the number of sections and limit it to 192, 194C and just a few one, then maybe it would become easier for everybody. And I would just take a stock here, Vikas, if you're able to see any other questions from the audience, else
Sure.
we would close it.
Sure, I have. There are a couple of questions. Maybe we can pick up one or one more in the interest of time. The question says that another completely complex and laborious provision is TDS on dividends. Several scenarios possible with several different rates and added complexities in terms of tight timelines, especially in case of interim dividend. I think this the person has also mentioned that this is a topic that needs some discussion in a separate session. I agree. I think the whole purpose of moving to the classical system of taxation on dividends was that it should ease the burden. Okay. And since we have introduced TDS, it could be again one simple rate of TDS above a certain threshold for all kind of taxpayers to make it easier. The present scenario is quite complex. You have to work on different permutation combinations to withhold taxes. I think, Rahul, a larger picture, if we look at it, in a fair system, even if you miss out on TDS, the other party is going to include it in his tax return income, right? There should be no loss to the government per se in a fair system. But since our tax to GDP ratio is barely touching the double digit numbers right now, and it requires attention, that's why provisions like TDS get introduced So the government has the information. I think I will pick up the point which Vineet and Keshav mentioned, that there is some issue and internal reflection also required at industry's part as well. Having said that, I think a more liberal approach needs to be adopted, so the focus shifts to focus on business and employment generation rather than merely on compliances. So easier compliances will ultimately help in better compliance and more collections as well.
So thank you so much, my fellow panelists. I'm so happy, Vikas, for you to take lead on this and come up with really sensible, though radical recommendations, and hope while we present it to the ministry, there would be heed to these recommendations and we would have simplified version of the TDS provisions going forward. And I would also thank Keshav, you and Vineet to bring your hands-on industry experience and nuances for the attention of the audience here. And audience, I can say that the advice both coming from Keshav as well as Vineet, that only automation, digitization and technology is the solution. That is true for most of the organizations. And I would also make an appeal to any of our audience. If you are a technology company, please do pay attention to create good softwares for complying with Indian TDS. And if you create one that can work anywhere else in the world, because it would be able to deal with all these situations. With this, I would put a close to this event, and Avinash, over to you to close it. Thank you.
Rahul, just before you close,
Sorry, yes, Keshav.
I would like to see as a silver lining all these complexities of DDS on dividend coupled with treaty rate and beneficial thing. So earlier, as a chartered accountant, IT used to mean income tax. I think now with all this complexity, we need to also be IT means information technology. So
Absolutely.
I see there is a lot of opportunity in automation, and that is the positive side of it.
Sure. Avinash, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, on behalf of SOCHM, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to our eminent experts, Mr. Rahul Garg, Mr. Vikas Fasal, Mr. Vineet Agarwal, and Mr. Keshav Loyalkar for sharing their views with all of us. And I would also like to thank all the audience for participants from the industry for attending this session. Now we shall be submitting this report to Finance Ministry, and we will also try to seek an opportunity to meet them in person to explain for any clarification if they required from our side.
And any audience questions which are not answered, please send it and Secretariat could assimilate those and consider those in the representation that we make.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
you.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.